In the video clip I shared called Master Reveals Hidden Secrets of Reality Creation, RJ Spina talks about timelines. He talks about your personal timeline and he talks about the collective timeline. Further to the story of personal timelines, I have direct experience in how this works. From my shamanic training, this is known as the momentum tunnel. And there's a direct mathematical formula that goes with it in the laws of physics that shows exactly how to shift your timeline. I'm Colleen, also known as the Healing Visionary. I'm a shamanic energy medicine healer, intuitive, and channeler. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen and show you my original notes with the drawings and break it down. Here's the way that it was explained from my training in the Four Winds with Dr. Alberto Violo. And it goes into this formula of mass over velocity. The analogy is this. Let's say you want to change your life and you're driving down the highway with all your household in the back of a pickup truck and you're going at full speed. This is how we live our life. We go at full speed and we carry everything in the metaphoric pickup truck. We've got the dog and the cat, all your friends, your old relationships and your current relationship, and all the memories, grudges, the old stories, all your aches and pains, and the kitchen sink. This is the speed that you're going down this momentum tunnel. So here's where you are now. Here's everything from your past, and it's all going forward. But you might want to not have more of the same old, but a slightly better version of the old. If you want to change your life, future, and momentum, so it's not just a slightly better version of what you've already been receiving, you want to catch these 1% outlier strands that will veer off from your main momentum tunnel. This is what tarot reads, the energy, and other oracles reads the energy of where you're coming from in the past, given where you are now, will create more of the same as you continue forward. Let's say you want to make a big change, and so you want to catch one of these threads out here and create a new tunnel, a new destiny. So this can be put into this formula like this. If you want to change your life, for the sake of ease, to make the formula easy to understand, we're going to put both the mass and the velocity at 4. So the mass is 4 times 4 squared is 64 over 2 makes it 32. All right, so with the same mass, we get the number 32. Now, let's say you're in the pickup truck with all of your life in the back, going full speed, but you need to make this sharp turn up ahead. And you decide to take some of the things out of the truck to lighten your load, possibly making it safer to make that turn. This would look like forgiveness, forgiving people, healing relationships with your children or your parents, your boss relationship, and lightening that emotional cargo. And so here's the formula for that. The mass gets cut down in half to a 2. 2 times 4 squared over 2 becomes 32 over 2, which makes 16. That's a significant reduction, and it will be a lot easier to make that change. However, there is the shamanic perspective where we keep everything. Keep the job, keep your life and the dog and your spouse and all of the things. And then instead, you slow down. You come into stillness in flight, like hummingbird medicine. And we know hummingbird medicine as this wonderful, beautiful creature that defies all the laws of physics. By nature, it should not be able to fly given the size of its wings to its body weight. And also, they take this epic journey from the north of Canada all the way down to South America. And they don't know that they aren't supposed to be able to fly. They don't know where the next specifically trumpeted flower of nectar is going to be along the way, or a branch to rest on. Where are they going to eat? How are they going to rest? What if they don't make it? They don't think about any of this and they just go. And so this is known as the archetype of the North, the mythic and beauty way of living and walking in beauty in the mythic realm where everything is possible. And it's known as hummingbird medicine. So let's put that into the mathematical equation here. Keep everything. So the mass is back to 4, reducing the velocity in half to 2. So you get 4 times 2 squared is 16 over 2 is 8. Compared with the original 32, this is have it again from reducing the mass. So when you reduce your velocity, reduce your speed, and slow down, and this means meditation. This means journeying into realms of the higher self, strengthening that connection with your own inner wisdom, and sitting in stillness, going into meditation daily, just slowing everything down. No need to scroll through the monotonous voices across social media, turning off all the news. And this starts to create your own new momentum tunnel, making that sharp change. It also, from the shamanic perspective, is how we know it as changing things before they're born. Before you have the obstacles or the sticky, prickly situation, you change it before it even becomes, before it's even created. And that way you don't then need to change things in the world of physical reality, in the world of matter. It never grew. It wasn't created. And that is by coming back to the 0 point, coming back to completely neutral, stepping outside into this realm of timelessness, stillness, getting silent and tuning in to your internal world. So in my own life, I can share some examples of how this works because I tried it twice. First time it didn't work, and I'll tell you why after I explain this. So now that you understand, there is physical mathematical evidence that this is why meditation and all the masters throughout all time in history have always been teaching that meditation is the way when we put it down to earth in our own life. That is, if you want to make that big change in your momentum tunnel. This means journeys out of the body for healing and working with your guides. This means working at subconscious levels through visuals and symbology for revisioning what you want. In other words, manifestation, but not so formulaic. It's really working with visuals in the what is called the female way of manifesting through the subconscious and the language of visuals. Finding stillness each day, even if you have obligations, responsibilities to others, and a busy social life and demanding work hours, you still carve out, you plug it into your schedule every day, a time to go into that stillness. Other things like breath work, yoga, qigong, Reiki, Pilates, whatever methods of body work and breath work that you want to develop, and other mindful and slow living pathways through life will create that stillness and reduce your velocity. And that means being patient. The idea is to change things before they're born. That way you don't have to change in the world of things, in the world of matter, which is much harder to do. There are ways to do this with the help of shamanic energy medicine, which is what I offer to my clients and people that find me, is that in the tarot card reading, it'll read what's in your momentum tunnel. And then there are oracles that can be used to actually alter the obstacles. And that is one way. We call this destiny work. And there's another like soul retrieval that is a destiny retrieval where I actually go up to the higher realms. I help you access this, bring it down and deliver it to you. It's absolutely beautiful, wonderful process. But I can tell you it does not work if you have not laid a solid foundation, if you have not done the groundwork of first layer, removing all negative energies and entities, and going through a series of balancing your own internal, especially masculine and feminine, especially certain soul retrievals, and the work of the medicine wheel in the other directions before you get to the north and the east directions of higher consciousness that will stick and stay with you. So let me share a personal story to show you what I'm talking about because I had this happen in my own life. I referenced to having done this twice. So when I first learned about it, it was my greatest desire. This is the thing I really wanted to do, was to shift my life. It had just kept going a little better, but pretty much more of the same, same, same. And I wasn't ever really after a number of years. So I was seeing a pattern, right? After you get to be a certain age, you realize we have these patterns that keep coming up. And it's like we are getting hit with a brick over our heads to learn this lesson. But I can tell you, it also runs deeper than that. What I'm talking about are curses and things that people don't like to discuss. Most healers and light workers are not trained in this and don't know how to actually remove them. But I do have the background training in that from Bolivian techniques and I also from the studies I did with Mongolian shamans who really brought that information forward in a concrete way that we humans definitely live amongst unseen realms of beings who do not like us. They think we are stinky, uneducated, rude humans. And we pee in their rivers and lakes all the time. We pee on the ground, especially some clients I've worked with in recent years. I found that they had this particular curse and that they had been putting their menstrual blood into the earth. And this is also an offense. Any bodily fluids offend these, what are known in Tibetan and Hindu worldview as nagas. Now, in the Hindu way of detecting naga curses, they see it as it's in your astrology. But I'm here to tell you what I learned from the other ways of seeing these curses is that they can attack you as you're living your life. They don't need to be in your astrology. If you're coming from that perspective, if you've heard of this before and that's how you understood it, it's not always that case. It's actually in the real world time, you can be cursed. Now they come in the spring, they live in rivers and all the waterways and caves. Those are their main homes, but the entire earth is like their skin. So a lot of people who dig or make construction, especially those who work in the oil industry, their entire family lines are cursed with the Naga curse. I have also read stone divinations for people whose father was in that industry and she has that curse running behind her life. I've also seen it in other people, including myself, who got it through parents, through our parents, through our ancestral line. So the story for me is I finished my mastery program in shamanic energy medicine and then expected my life to fully blossom as it did for everyone else that was doing the same work at this extremely high level. And it wasn't my first time. I have been studying this my entire life. I've always been into mysticism and the occult and channeling in different ways through communication with the animals and plants. I've always been super perceptive and had that intuitive psychic ability to communicate. So all of this had been going on, and that was always very much at the forefront of my life. Okay, so fast forward, I'm now 48 at that time, couple summers ago, and I was doing this course with the Mongolian shamans and learning quite a lot. And like RJ Spina calls out, and I'm glad that he does, this love and light and namaste, as he says it so humorously, they were the same. They were so down on the entirety of Western spirituality because it's been completely twisted. And the reality of the way these things work is not all rainbows and unicorns. And so there's a real dark side to all of this. And that's what I'm going to talk about now because it is the one thing that will derail all of your manifesting abilities and it will derail your efforts to shift that momentum tunnel just like it did for me. And I couldn't figure out why until I went to Mongolia that summer on pilgrimage, and they were really not nice to me. They didn't appreciate the kind of person I am. I guess they viewed it as, well, they told me they thought I was weak. They thought I was had no abilities to meditate, and they just slammed me into the ground pretty hard. I was there though because I knew from my higher self and my spirit guide that I had been led there because I always had this overshadowing darkness that I felt like my life should be progressing a lot better than it has been. And so if you're relating to this, keep listening. If not, you know, feel free to leave it. But this is how it works. When I went there and this was going on, but I'm in the middle of nowhere in Mongolia. It's not like I can leave. So, but I would, I think most people would have left by then. However, the very next day, vindication came because we were meeting with the elder shaman up in the very north restricted area, and it was their shaman teacher. And he came into the yurt. There were the four of us, and he's going to read each one of our lives, not through the stone divination, which is the normal way that we can detect if there's a Naga curse and other things, family curses, other beneficial spirit helpers and higher powers that are also with you. Because in every life, it's not all good, it's not all bad. There's a bit of a mix, but definitely you want to have more of the positives. And if you do have these curses in the way, there are methods to get rid of them, and they work. I'm living proof. So we're in the yurt. The elder shaman teacher, he's reading our life through the shaman's mirror, one of these, and he's in trance. And he looks at me and he doesn't speak any English, so it's all in Mongolian. And he starts talking about how I was attacked by the Naga spirits as a kid, as a child. And he saw where they entered my body through a birthmark on the left side of my back. And then, so they're telling me this all after They just said mine was so big. They they read the other three and then they said, "You wait, you stay here." And then they started telling me the story. And I just broke out in tears. It was the vindication I have been looking for eons. I had been to every healer of all modalities, including my own training, and never giving up. I was constantly doing my own inner work at deep levels to eradicate this and to be able to live the life I knew I really wanted to live. It was just so heart-opening to know, to actually have found, and I'm even feeling those emotions now, to found the thing. So if you are also living like this, there's a thing and that is there that is ruining everything. But couple factors to consider. One is at a soul level, why did it take me or you however many years that you had to live with this? So it turns out I was 8. They calculated I was either 7 or 8. And then I remembered there was a time I almost died when I was 8 years old. I had a very bad skin condition. And I started telling them about this, and my teacher says, yeah, that's exactly how they work. They often create a skin disease. Doctors can't figure out what it is, and that was true. I had it for several months, couldn't go to school. The other kids were bringing my schoolwork to me. I remember it vividly because of that. And I had to keep getting these cortisone shots which were a bit dangerous. And the doctor couldn't figure out if I had got some kind of strange spider bite or whatever. But I had just finished a trip with my father, my birth father, who I never lived with. My parents separated when I was 1 year old. So I was with him and I never really knew him. He wasn't a very nice guy either. He was really hard and just not very loving at all. And so he was into caving and racing antique sports cars. So, and scuba diving. So those were the activities that we would do with him. And this summer, and my sister was there also. She's 3 years younger than me. So at the time I was 8. It was the spring when they start coming back to Earth. And we were visiting the caves somewhere in Kentucky. I don't think it was Mammoth Cave. I think it was some smaller caves. And so as the night went on, like the session with the shaman ended and I went back to my place, they said they then hugged me, the people who thought I was weak and useless. Um, she hugged me and said, "We will help you. We will get rid of it." And so that's what happened, but it wasn't immediate. I still had a few nights where I had the racing thoughts to piece this together, and all of it started coming back to me that um, my father used to show this rattlesnake tail as a souvenir from some earlier time in his teenage life where there was a massive rattlesnake uh, going across the road and he killed it and took its tail. Well, that's he's the root of the Naga curse from having done something like that. And because I lost contact with him since I was 17 and I'm now 48, and this happened when I was 8 years old. So I lived for 40 years with this web of them, and there were hundreds that came out and several big Naga kings too. Like they really, and I'm the firstborn. That's another piece that came months later. That's why I got it and my sister didn't, because she was there in the cave too, but I'm the firstborn, so it came to me. Now, at a soul level, the contract we make. Why did that have to happen? And why could it not have been found sooner? Well, culturally, these things don't exist in the West. And nobody realized that I was under such influences. But now he's still alive, although he's quite old. So we have his entire life history to look at and say how really unsuccessful his whole life has been due to the Naga curse. They don't let you thrive. They don't let you fully succeed. You might get a few steps ahead, but then you get knocked down again and again and again. So this is not to scare people. This is not to scare you at all. It's just to be real about it and that there are ways to get rid of it. You can, of course, come to me. I'm maybe one of the few people, there are a few of us in the West who are Western healers who know how to deal with these because it is beyond family curses and ancestral work. That stuff can also derail your ability to create a new momentum tunnel. And also the general negative entities that are attached. I had some of those too, because I'm a super empath. I also am just too open. So they often, in my younger years before I knew about energy protection, they had already come in. And they did stuff like make me feel suicidal all the time and the depression, and it was tough. And there was one entity, I don't know who or what it was, but when it was removed by one of my colleagues from the Four Winds, where we learned this work from the Bolivian methods, they're the ones who really understand how to deal with the dark side. It's not the Peruvian methods. That was interesting. And so when that entity was removed, that very day, I felt like I was Janis Joplin with rose-colored glasses. The whole world looked so beautiful, completely different. And I felt so much lighter. And I thought, that's it. It's done. Yet I didn't realize about the Naga curse. And so that was about a year later when things were again going very badly. And even after having done what is called a waka, which is a massive shift. I mean, if things aren't shifting, then you do the waka, and that will 100% shift. And guess what? Mine wasn't. And I knew there's still something. And even those powerful methods couldn't find it. And that's when my guides led me to the Mongolian teachers, and I went there on pilgrimage and got that found out. I can tell you that immediately my dreams changed. I had a whole new flavor of dreams, which were more beautiful and light and interesting and fun. It's not like I was having nightmares before, but every so often I would get some pretty strange ones, and that's them. That's the Nagas will show up. So here are some signs that you can tell if you have a Naga curse. Main one is if you've ever had a skin condition, inexplicable, or maybe it was explained away by doctors, but they really didn't know. But mine was severe. It swelled up my whole neck and my whole head. I looked like a Pillsbury marshmallow puff and couldn't breathe. My eyes were completely swollen shut. My mouth wouldn't open. And I was just like pebbly skin and had to, for 2 months, just drink liquids through a straw and put oatmeal packs on my face constantly. And then it finally died down after about 2 months. But then, the excuse was she's allergic to all of nature. Because I had just come back from this trip with my father to the caves, which was surrounded by forests. And we were spending a lot of time out in the forest in nature. I'm not allergic to nature at all. I love nature. And that was really disappointing as well because it wasn't true. So that's the number one thing is if you've ever had that skin condition, because that's how this one, there are three types and they each make different things happen. The other one makes a skeletal and central nervous system issues. And then the other kind will do stuff with your interior organs. But mainly, we get the ones who create those skin conditions. And also, if you have dreams where you're in the water or a cave and any serpents, if they don't show up physically as serpents, then they can also create these just otherworldly, bizarre landscapes in your head, often including mountains or waterways. And so those are the main ways that they'll show up in your life through the dreams and through that skin stuff. Um, so the way they entered me was through a birthmark on the left side. I didn't even know I had a birthmark there. It was like in a space in a place where you can't even see. So that night in the yurt, they lifted my shirt and I said, take a photo. And they did. Sure enough, there was a slightly pinkish blob, and that's how they entered. So they can enter if it's out of fear. You know, if you get really afraid inside a cave or in the water or even stealing rocks or things from the beach, they view everything as their home and they love riches and they're very greedy and they're very powerful and they're amazingly strong entities on the earth. And so they will put these curses on you. I believe from what I've seen in the people I've worked with so far, that it's a lot stronger of a curse when it is coming down through the family line as opposed to if you just got it recently in this lifetime. Um, what else? But since they're gone, the other thing was I returned to my job after that summer and I completely surprised my own self because I had been getting attacked the previous school year by the principal and a group of senior girls who resented that I came in as a new teacher there. I taught at international schools around the world. And so when you change schools and countries, you're replacing the other teacher that left, and they're often resentful because they either wanted that teacher. In this case, they didn't like that teacher. She even left them at Christmas time and never came back. And I totally understand why now. So those girls resented me that I actually came in more knowledgeable than the former teacher with this rigorous international baccalaureate program that I teach in, and they were graduating. So I had to get them up to speed to make the higher scores, which is usually what they all want, is to make the higher scores because then they have better admittance into the universities. All right. But they attacked me and really created a whole story of slander, took it to the principal, very manipulative. And of course, the students are the ones who pay, and these are all consumer schools at this point. Education is just on a massive downward spiral because it's basically like working at a retail shop in the mall. And these parents and their students are our customers, and we have to do whatever they want to any detriment of their own growth. So this is what happened, and I didn't stand up to it. I just let the men in charge yell at me. I really wanted to just crawl under a rock. So that was my old self in the year before. Then that summer, I did the pilgrimage to Mongolia, the Naga curse removed. I returned to the same job for my second year, which was started in September. And a few months into it, I was again getting slammed by these men in charge who had what I then realized was they have absolutely zero respect for me. You just, if you respect somebody, you would never talk like that. And they weren't doing it to only me, many, many other colleagues, even the colleagues who had already left the year before. That's some of the inside politics of international teaching. I'm sure it goes on at local schools too in every country. But at these very high end, in supposedly the best in the world international schools, it's appalling what really goes on behind the scenes there. And then I remember when the December break came up, so that was exactly 1 year ago today, that I wanted to leave. I completely understood why that other teacher left, and I didn't. I just kept saying, no, you just stay in, just finish the year, and then you can move on and get a better situation. But it came to a head when I got back to school after the January New Year's. It was early February. We'd only been back for a few weeks, and one of those head guys um, told me he was going to change the whole schedule mid-year, which is a weird thing to do, but I'm pretty good at rolling with the flow. I've been doing this for over 20 years now. And I know the number one rule in education is to be flexible because things are always going to be changing. And we really learned about that during COVID. So, yeah, all right. But the thing was, it was with the senior class that was about to graduate, and it was only a few weeks before their major final assessment. And I teach art, so this was a major art exhibition that shows all of their artwork they have made across the whole 2 years. And it was right before that big exhibition, which is the my biggest event of the year every year in the schools. And he was going to remove one of their classes, one of their art classes. And I stood up for the students, as any good teacher would do. And I said, that's not going to be good for them. It's right before the major art exhibition, the final assessment, their graduating requirement. And they're going to lose one class. And he just exploded. I mean, I thought his head was going to come off of his neck. He turned red, like an old cartoon where they turn beet red and the fumes start coming out of their ears. And I literally backed into the wall. I was afraid he was going to even hit me. He was that angry. So it was pretty uh, dramatic and explosive interaction, altercation, you'd even say, because I stood up to him. The old Colleen would never have done that. I would have just taken it, been upset, probably apologized to the students, but we have to work with it. Instead, I said, no, I think this way. It's hurtful to them. Why would you do that? And he didn't have a good reason and stormed away. And I went back to where I keep my stuff. It was on the lunch break. And I'm just like, nope, I'm leaving. And I did. I walked out. I said that was the fifth time that it had happened from the year before and from this current year that they had been talking down to me and so hurtful and disrespectful to me. Because what happened was he said, "You're so negative. Look at you. You're so negative. Can't you feel it?" I said, "Yeah." everything you just said is so negative. I'm standing up for these students. They're your students too. And then that's when I thought he was going to hit me. So, all right, that's the drama of the story. But it's a real life example of how, when you get rid of the Naga curse, you become your authentic self again. And I also realized now it's been exactly 1 year later that my higher self removed me from that situation of the toxic workplace, the toxic 9 to 5, because there's no way I could have reached the heights that I'm going to now in my spiritual growth, the stillness, the going within. I am definitely on a new timeline. Firstly, from having the Naga curse removed, leaving the job, and spending all this time completely immersed in going through the upheaval of like all the solar flares and the frequencies are doing with many of us now, bringing up again old stuff to be finally released and cleared out. So I've been also in this year getting hit with a lot of emotions, although it's not too difficult. It hasn't been super painful. It's just come to my awareness and then I let them out. I hope this helps. If you're still watching, then I honor you for staying tuned and wanting to delve into this topic that is a difficult one that people don't want to talk about. But that's why I tie it to what RJ Spina talks about, because he talks about the timelines. I had the information, the mathematical physics formula to show exactly what is needed to do that. He also talks about removing entities. He also talks about some of the dark stuff too, although the work that I have learned from the Mongolians and the Bolivian and Peruvian shamanic tools get at this. It's not only from my life, but it's in the lives of the other people too who have worked with me and had the removal done. It's not too often that the Nagas are there. Usually it's family curses, and I actually have both. I had the family curse from the mother line and I had the Naga curse from the father line. So I had both. And I came in though. I came in with this heavy soul contract. Other readers, psychic readers, have also always seen that and kept repeating it to me throughout the years. Oh, your soul came in saying, like, give me all the hardship. I had a very nasty soul contract with my mother, and I was able to, through spiritual development and deeper understanding on higher levels of consciousness, understanding soul contracts, I was able to release that karma. So we're never going to be looping anymore again. And that can also be done. This work is powerful and it's so transformative when you go on the longer journey. So I want to encourage you, if you're still watching, come to me or seek out someone who can guide you and stay with you on the long haul through these journeys, because they are powerful and they do transform your life. New timelines definitely form. And right now, this is crucial. That's why I was removed from the toxic job in order to get on to my ascension level, on my soul's expansion at that level of ascension, so that I will definitely, without a doubt, be. I already am. I'm already seeing the physical evidence that I make videos and talks about ascension topics too. Seeing the new realms, I'm seeing them now. I'm seeing colors I've never seen before. I'm having experiences that with my higher self that I have not had before. So things are definitely increasing spiritually, and it's really interesting and exciting. I can completely see how it's possible that this new earth shift is absolutely real. And it's not like we're going anywhere else. We are going somewhere conceptually with our consciousness. And therefore, you won't see the old 3D earth realm with its destruction and everything it's doing to implode on itself. That is a different timeline that you won't be on if you follow this path of stillness, reducing your velocity. I will stop there for now, but I really wanted to express that message about what derails manifesting and even shifting your timeline. It is the dark stuff, it is the negative entities and curses. Reach out if this is you. I can help you. I've helped a lot of people. There aren't many of us out there who really know how to do this. My links are below. You can read and learn more about me there.